Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
It's so wonderful to connect with you always.
You too, and we're live with everybody. So everybody that's on the call, it's wonderful to connect with you all also. Um,
Likewise.
and y'all, it's a special call every time Brandy is on, and we're going into some serious empowerment.
I
What do
love
I
that.
mean about that?
Serious empowerment, real results, real change. Game on. Let's bring it.
And it's serious self-love, and really what you do to attune all of us to that, Brandy, and what that helps us to attune within ourselves and expand and bring vitality to is just, it's a gift for anybody and everybody who's experienced your work. So thank you for what you do and how you do it.
Absolutely. Part of the reason that self-love just drove me is because, of course, it's key in healing all aspects of life. But also there's a lot of misconceptions around the topic, or people that are trying really hard to create that change and yet that feeling challenged. And so that was one of the reasons that I really wanted to highlight that. For me, people to get real results from healing, from transformation, from, creating a real change it's just so important. So that's the reason that I really love this topic.
Well, and I love it also because I am becoming even more aware from an embodied standpoint. What that field of congruency does is a harmonic to hold a sustainable energy that is engendered by that self-love. So we can glimpse healing, we can glimpse joy, we can glimpse abundance. But if that foundation of self-love has cracks in it, which many of ours do, just because of our environmental conditioning, that again, we have those strong wobbles. And you're one of the people that I swear I never see. I've never seen you wobble. It's just always like this place of expansion, place of just such an amazing joy for life. And y'all, this is attainable, and this is why today's topic again is, I think, so important, truly. Before we dive into it, Brandy, will you share with everybody? Some people on the call are probably new to you. Will you share a little bit about yourself, how it is that you're helping clients, and what's possible through working, going deeper into what you teach?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would say what I'm most known for in my work is showing people, even under medical equipment, how to get radical results. So what I love is I love to geek out on results. And actually, I don't know if can I share my screen? Is that
If you can't, I'm going to make sure that you can here in 2 seconds.
okay? So, I can't yet, but if you go to the caret up on next to share screen and hit advanced settings.
I just have to find you. That's all under
Yeah,
the.
all you have to do is find. I just adore you. I love your sense of humor and your playfulness and your spirit. You're just beautiful. But basically, in short, what I love to do is I love to show under medical equipment and how we can get results, because more and more people are waking up to the awareness that we can heal with the mind. And so that's fun. And also at the same time, getting real results, it takes a certain level of awareness. And so this is actually a medical study that I had this published in a journal last year. And you can see the results. Somebody's in extreme pain. So we'll see, this red where we see all of this here. I'll make it bigger, where we see all of this pain and inflammation, which is from the red. And we can see now there's the green, and this person, it took 22 minutes for her to be able to get out of pain. And she went from a 5.5 to a 0.5 of pain. And so so what I love, and that's what drives me, is to show results so we can see it. Now, one of the things that I love about this one is this gentleman right here. He had come from a 10-day meditation retreat and even a positivity seminar. And unfortunately, he still had pain, but he had a level 6 of pain. And it took 28 minutes to show him how to use his mind to release it. And he did. I didn't do it. He did it. And so that's what I've been up to is helping people to get results. And that stems from my own injury. I ended up wheelchair, walker, cane, an absolute mess, and started looking at how to heal myself and did all the things and probably failed just as much, if not more than anybody doing it. And from that, though, I started to make key distinctions that were pivotal. And in doing so, I figured out how to heal myself. And after I did, I thought I need to show this so people can see it. And so that's my passion. That's my journey, is creating real change.
Love that. From those pictures, what does it take for someone to sustain those type of results? Because I understand that it comes in waves sometimes. And
Go ahead. Great question. So what happens is that all of the time I'll tell people, after you create this change, make sure to follow through. And what I mean by follow through is embrace the change that we talked about. Because I'll coach somebody to use their mind in a certain way. And then I say, make sure to get it in. Now, all the time, I'll have people that I'll do that one time and I'll show them, and they don't want to be in pain again. So they embody the change. And it's not just pain. All kinds of, I've seen incredible changes, massive, incredible changes in a very short period of time. And so some people, they go, okay, I'm changing. Then others, sometimes they'll change, the pain will be gone. And then maybe they get triggered by their husband or their spouse or significant other or kids or parents or whatever it is. Something might come up and trigger them. And they realize maybe there's still some patterns and still some layers, or maybe the self-love isn't there. Maybe there's another piece. So what can happen is there's some pieces that they have a hard time maintaining that change. And they'll have to then just go back into it over and over and over again to really embody that change. So that's the key, is that it does take genuine change.
Mhm. And it doesn't just apply to the physical body. I know you've worked with some pretty well-known people on finding the relationship and their spouse, and they've had babies together. It's like this life takes off in a way that perhaps there was glimpses or threads of not sure if it ever fall in, maybe not deserving it, not believing it's possible. Financial just leaps from people who were already doing pretty well, but then they just blossomed into a whole new stratosphere of what was possible. Cultivating new careers and expanding into that. Again, it's the work isn't limited to the physical body, but the threads that go into, as you heal one aspect, how it multiplies the effects in other aspects of our lives as well. It's pretty common for the people that you work with.
Absolutely. And I love the way that you said that. It does. It can start with one pattern and one thread and multiply in so many areas. And even a simple example, and I say simple, but this can also be a complex pattern, but something like self-criticism. And I'll see people who might struggle from a pattern of self-criticism that they've tried to get rid of, and yet it keeps showing up in their lives. And if you picture the next 60 years of their lives of them struggling with that pattern, or changing that pattern into self-confidence, self-love, feeling good about themselves, from that change alone, the way that the person shows up in their relationships or in their business or with their children or just around friends, any of that, it creates a pivotal change. And so the more we change ourselves, the more we change every area of our lives.
So let's talk about self-love.
I love that. Let's talk about self-love.
Okay. And again, the question is, how do we cultivate that? We've all heard the conversations.
We have.
How are you sharing this? And please bring it to our audience, because again, you're such a wizard, if you will, of bringing this intelligence through so people can apply it into their lives.
There we go. And apply it. I love exactly that. Applying it and thinking about that very thing is how to apply the information. And sometimes it's easier to also look at what people might be doing wrong, that then gives us clarity as to what we want to do that is right. And I would say that one thing that I'll see people do where they try to bring in more self-love is they do it and they connect it to a problem. So in other words, if I said, I had a really hard week and I'm going to engage in self-care now. So what happens is then you link up, it becomes more like a self-sympathy, or that you get care for self because of hardship, instead of saying, I love who I am. I love who I am, and actually feeling that. And so what'll happen is, I mean, there's multiple ways. So that's kind of, if we look at the basics, that is something that I'll see people do all the time, is they say, okay, well, you know what, so-and-so is mean to me, I'm going to give myself some self-love. And what we have to remember with mind programming is it's not straightforward. It's it can be very tricky. And one way to think about it is like this, is if we just use a different topic, if we think about somebody who has pride in hardship. Now, what happens is that they may want to get rid of the hardship, of course, but because it's connected to pride, they can't. So it feels like a push-pull. So they're using all of these release techniques and trying to get rid of it. And yet there's a push-pull because it's connected to their pride. Or sometimes people will have a pattern of sympathy or self-sympathy linked up as in their childhood that they didn't put there on purpose. And then what happens is there's a part of them that wants this and has this feeling, this pattern, this unconscious pattern even of sympathy that then feels like love, feels like care. And then what happens is it can drag in more negative situations or health issues or problems or whatnot, because that's what's linked up to love. And we as human beings need love. And so what happens is as we start to get rid of the things that aren't love, and we start to reprogram our minds, then we can bring in even more pure love. And that's one piece of it. There's multiple pieces, but that's one of them. I would say another piece is, patterns and whatnot that can block us.
Well, and again, recognizing where that self-love is flowing from, again, how we've entrained, what we believe that self-love is, and really what you're inviting us to is to going deeper, to really go past the superficial way that we're accustomed of receiving love from outside of ourselves. But that's also an indication how we're accustomed to receiving our own self-love in different ways. And as we delve deeper into what's possible, we begin to discover, when the doors are shown to us that perhaps hadn't been shown before, that there's something else that we can access that perhaps we couldn't access before. And I find that sometimes it takes some adjusting to be able to be in that much receiving. And that we have to, there is like this rewiring that happens, that our physical body and our nervous system can attune to in a different way, and that may feel uncomfortable at first, but that really takes us to a whole nother place of receiving and acknowledging what's possible.
Absolutely. And sometimes change can feel exactly like that. It can feel uncomfortable, or even when it comes to the topic of self-love, I've worked with plenty of people who had patterns of knowing that, hey, I need to bring in self-love. And simultaneously, they might have had unconscious, subconscious beliefs that say, oh, well, that's bad. Or, oh, well, people just love themselves. Or if I love myself, I'm arrogant. Or on the opposite side, some people do bring in a feeling of self-love. And as they do, they bring in feelings of superiority or righteousness. And then that backfires. And then it creates a hard time maintaining the self-love, because it's stuck in the superiority and what. So it really is about the purity of self-love. And when we can really identify and release the other patterns that are either blocking it, or misunderstanding self-love, or keeping us from fully being that is when we can really step into ourselves and feel love for who we are. And instead of it coming from a place of superiority or righteousness or better than others, it amplifies love. It's like our love in relationships is amplified, because the more we can love ourselves genuinely, then we can also love others, and we can also experience love. And so it's a really beautiful shift.
How can we catch when we're out of a balance with it, and one side of the scale or the other? Again, either the righteousness or the not deserving this.
That is a great question. And I would say that there's a few things. So a lot of times, even that superiority pattern comes from a wounding. And I've seen this all the time where, a simple example, if we illustrate, let's say there's a little kid who is left out from a group of friends, and an adult comes by and says, "Don't worry about it. They're just jealous. You're better than they are." Now, what happens is then they get wounding linked up to, well, you're just better than they are. And then what happens is that this pattern goes throughout life, that somebody gets rejected and they feel superior. And then they have this pattern, rejection superiority pattern is what I call it, because it can be so common. And so in other words, a lot of times when we're really out of balance, it's really about understanding that we have patterned ways of thinking and feeling. And so we don't want to address each specific issue. Instead, the better way to create a real change is to really address the pattern. And if I get a little technical here, if we think about like Freud's work, if we think about repetition compulsion or reenactments or attachment theory, and if we look at these well-known belief systems and teachings from psychology, what we know is that the mind can continue to go back to the same emotional pattern and attract more of the same emotional pattern. And a way to think about it is, if we keep it simple and we just say, unfortunately, a woman can have an abusive father and leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, et cetera, or somebody can have a pattern of hurt or wounding or whatever that is. And so point being is that for self-love, what we ultimately want to do to create a lasting change is to understand and identify the patterns and genuinely shift those. And then it becomes easy to just stay in balance.
So identifying them, like, again, having a relationship with it, opening up from the blind spot and being aware, again, learning how to be aware.
Well said. Yeah. Learning how to be aware and clearing our minds, because what happens is the more that we can clear our minds, the more that we open our minds to see even more. And I think that is pivotal, is that that changed my life. I mean, when I first started working on my own injury and going through this process of healing myself, my accident was over 20 years ago now. And as I healed myself, and I was completely healed by 2010, but as I did, when I first started the journey, I didn't even know I had emotions. so, I mean, I worked in technology. I didn't know I had a subconscious mind. I mean, I really, really changed a lot in understanding these, but that's what happens, is as we clear our minds, we can see even with more clarity.
Yeah, something that you bring a lot of empowerment to also, and that this is so important, because I talk to so many people about this in different ways. But I can take someone through and to get them to acknowledge that they deserve to be a priority, or that they deserve to feel safe financially. And that's just a foundational point. Just the beginning, tiptoeing into deserving brings up so much emotion. It's like, God, I didn't even know that I didn't feel like I deserved that. And the work that you do and how you guide people, you not only take them through into recognizing where perhaps that pain points is arising through their psyche and also manifesting through their body, but you take them so beautifully into acknowledging that deservingness. So why is it so important, and what do you see come out on the other side as you're working with people with this one aspect?
Absolutely. Deserving for me was a breakthrough in working with people, is that, all of the time you hear people say things like self-worth or, whatnot, but it's kind of like if we don't at a subconscious level, if we feel like we don't deserve something, we don't deserve to love ourselves, we don't deserve to be healthy, to be happy, to feel loved, to have success, then what happens is we can block ourselves from it. And so as far as deserving, that was a pivotal thing for helping me to help people get results, is understanding that our minds can block us in a variety of different ways. And so absolutely bringing in deserving and bringing in self-love is definitely a key component to creating an emotional shift and also establishing new neural pathways.
Do you find that there's key themes in the deservingness that show up for people? Again, deserving to receive love, deserving to be your priority, are big ones, deserving to be seen, deserving to be safe, are big ones that come up a lot in community. But I'm curious if there's big ones that come up and I love the audience to feel into even saying those things out loud, to see how it resonates in their body and how open they are to communication, that truth that arises as we vocalize the potential of that deservingness.
Absolutely. And I would say, so this definitely comes up, but I would say it's sneaky. And most people, like some people are aware of it, I would say in my experience, but I would also say that many people aren't aware of the different ways that deserving and undeserving works. And for example, is that a person may feel very, very deserving of a great life. And yet simultaneously, they also have a feeling of guilt from the past. Now, guilt from the past, like if I said, oh, I'm bad, I did something wrong, well, then what do I deserve if I feel that way? I feel like I deserve punishment or I don't deserve a privilege. And so I would say that what I've discovered in my work is exactly that, is that from the research that I've done, deserving is different than in a lot of cases. Like a lot of people would say consciously, do you feel deserving? I feel like I deserve a great life. And they feel that way. And yet these unconscious patterns, and I call them, negative punishment patterning, but these punishment patterns of things like shame or a feeling of self-criticism or guilt or things like that. And there's, a variety of different ones can block us so we don't feel fully deserving in life. And I would say that is key to creating a change.
And some people may be listening going, okay, I've done some of this work and these other things, and I'm aware, and I still have these things. It's like, I still feel stuck, or I still feel like there's something lingering. Is it a past life thing? Is it because I'm a galactic from somewhere else? Is it because of the way my father and my mother were, and I just can't shake that off? What would you say to all of that?
I would say this. I would say that there's a few key things. That there's a lot of misconceptions when working with emotions. And one is this, I was actually working with somebody the other day, and I said to her, I said, can you see this pattern? And she said, yeah, I see that, but I don't have any emotion around it anymore. And I said, but you don't feel that, like, she's like, it just is what it is. It's just a fact. And I said, okay. But I want you to look at it in this way for a moment. What if you looked at it in a completely different way? She was like, and I give her a whole new perspective. And she goes, wow. And I said, well, do you feel differently? And she goes, yeah, that's a big difference. I said, well, wait a second. I thought you didn't feel anything. It was just fact. And so what happens is people don't realize their perception of things emits an emotion and triggers an emotion in their subconscious mind. So I would say that's one thing. I would say that there are a lot of other things too. Another simple example is a lot of times people think if they forgive something, then it's fixed. And that would be a lot like opening the refrigerator and looking at old food in the refrigerator that needs to be thrown away and looking at it and saying, I forgive you, and then shutting the refrigerator door. It doesn't make it go away just because you forgave it. And so that's a key. I would also say that we need to really work with emotions in a different way, and that emotions emit energy more than people realize. And I kind of want to delve into the energy and a little bit of the technical piece to kind of geek out on that for a minute, but giving an example just for a moment, as far as how you want to work with your mind in a different way, one thing is this, is that emotions control our consciousness. And this is something else that I discovered as I was, researching and trying to figure out how to heal. And a key piece is understanding this emotion controlled perception or emotion controlled consciousness. And a simple way to illustrate it is like this, is that if we think about somebody who's really, really, really in love, what do they see in the person? They see all of the good things. If we think about somebody who's really, really hurt and upset or just had an argument, what do they see? They fault find all of the negative. Even if they tell themselves, just see the good in that person, they don't really see it, or let that argument go. They'll notice their mind goes back to that argument. And that's because our subconscious mind automatically goes where our subconscious emotions go. And so what's happening is our brain is automatically going in these directions. And so to create a radical shift, we really have to change our consciousness. And that's what's key, is shifting the consciousness. And that's how I've been able to get radical results, is helping people to understand and identify the emotions, and not just shifting the emotion, shifting the consciousness. So their brain then starts operating and seeing and feeling and perceiving in a new way. And that has created a profound shift.
Amazing. Is that something maybe that our audience can experience live today, where to have some people raise their hands and go into perceptions?
We could do that. And I think what would be amazing to do is, I think if we did it with somebody who's experiencing physical pain,
Amazing.
because I think that would be helpful, so we can see a shift. So I think that would be fun.
Wonderful. Y'all raise your hand, type your questions into the chat box, and we'll get into that in a little bit as we progress here. Brandy, how do we banish those negative self-perceptions? Because again, I become more and more aware of it. It's like the more I become empathic and open up, and the empathy would come in where it's like, oh, I'm feeling so much, I'd rather just push those things away because they don't feel comfortable. But the more that I'm swimming in that empathy, and again, the emotions that come up from being in an energetic field, and stand in it longer and have the perception of compassion, empathy, but also curiosity, what's there for me as well as I'm in relationship with it. It teaches me of becoming more aware of where I'm holding those negative self-perceptions within me, because it's such a beautiful mirror of what's occurring in different ways. But again, I'm also aware in different ways that perhaps I wasn't before, of where people are demonstrating one thing and, oh my God, they're amazing lives and they're happy and they project all these other things. But then you can pick up the subtleties of those negative perceptions so loudly, when before it wasn't quite so obvious.
So absolutely. So letting those feelings go, and they can, just like you said, they can show up in different areas of life. So we can have one area that's really great and another area that's not. And, but just like somebody can be great at English and not so great at math growing up through school, we can have certain areas or patterns in certain areas that we're great at in life, and then other areas where we're not so great. I would also say that it's really about understanding miswired mind programming as well. We talked about earlier somebody having a pride in hardship, or even feeling sympathy and feeling like love connects to sympathy. And so I would say other ways that we want to look at this that really affect people's lives are, another thing is that a person may have a feeling that if they criticize themselves, they get a compliment. So if I say, oh my gosh, I look so horrible in this, and somebody says, no, you don't, you look great. Now I've linked up criticism to compliment, and now I get a reward for it. And so my brain will want to keep doing that. Or another thing that I see, and I see this all of the time, unfortunately, is I'll see people who are working on trying to heal themselves. And what will happen is they'll maybe go into their younger self and younger wounding, and they see that their younger self was hurt. And so they want to give their younger self a bunch of love. And what they don't realize is they link up more love to the trauma. And so if you go, if the younger self is hurt and you go, okay, well, I'm going to give you a bunch of love, it links it up. And so one of the things is always making sure that give your little self love just for being great, for being kind, for being sweet, for being thoughtful, smart, anything, but not for any type of wounding, because it will actually reinforce the wounding instead of release it. And so, so there's just keys in working with the mind that we want to do it in a different way to get a different result.
Oh, that's so liberating. I love that you shared that. Thank you for that. It's so important, y'all. Again, because we're so, again, in our community, so trained, heal the little one, hold it, reparent it in a new way. And there's an empowerment piece that you're bringing through that awareness, Brandy. And it's so critical, truly. Wow. Should we go ahead and go to the live caller?
I love that too.
All right. I love this.
Let's do it.
All right, y'all, I'm going to call you by numbers. You know the drill, but when I call on you, if you'll unmute yourself and please let us know your name. And let's start with user 576. Welcome to the show.
Okay, can you hear me?
And welcome.
Hi, I'm Wendy Boyer.
Hi, Wendy. It's wonderful to connect with you.
Nice to connect with you too, Brandy.
Thank you. So are you currently experiencing physical pain at all?
Yes. I was in a car accident a year ago, and I also suffer from. Go ahead.
I just want to interrupt you if it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't want to ingrain the story. So just because I want to show you how to get results, and we got to be careful. So the more we ingrain it, the harder it's going to be to do. So okay. You're so lovely. Thank you. Thank you for letting me interrupt just a bit. So if I ask you your current level of pain right now, what would you say?
A 5.
Okay. And where is your pain located?
In my neck and my shoulder.
Okay. And so give me just 1 second. All right. So give me 1 second. Bingo. Okay. Bingo. Okay. If I ask you, okay, so if I ask you, can you see that there's kind of there's a sensitive part inside of you? You're familiar with that part?
Yes.
Yes. And if I ask you how much there's a part of you who feels like you expect to get your feelings hurt, how much would you say that is?
Yes, that's a lot. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I'm going to push and I'm going to be a little silly. Okay. And I'm going to remind you that our thoughts help create our lives. Okay. So I'm going to remind you, and I'm going to push and I'm going to be a little silly. Okay. So I'm going to say, our thoughts help create our lives. And I want you to go ahead and keep expecting that you're going to get your feelings hurt. Go keep expecting that. Or wait a second, or change that. Like I would strongly recommend changing that if I were you to a different expectation. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. So instead, that you fully expect that you're actually 100% safe and you're going to be loved and 100% safe, and it is safe and safe and safe. You have a completely new expectation, and you're changing your expectation, and you're changing it, and you're changing it. You're doing that, and you are genuinely expecting that fully. And I'm going to ask you to breathe and taking that in. Of course you expect that. You're beautiful inside and out. You're kind. You're a great person. Of course you expect that things are going to keep getting better and better, right?
Yeah, I should be. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm asking you to breathe. Right. Right. So you're changing. You're willing to change, right?
Yes.
100% willing to change.
100%.
100%. Great. So I'm going to ask you to take that in, that you are changing. You are willing to change. It's exciting to change. You're the power. You're the power. Your expectation, you're changing. Because if somebody expects to fail or expects to be hurt or expects blah, 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 they're going to create more blah, blah, blah. So you're changing your expectation because you're the power, and you're changing that genuinely, right?
Yes.
100%?
Yes. Close. Yes.
100% want to?
Yes.
Great. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I want you to notice your level of pain, 0 to 10. What's your level?
A 3.
A 3. Great. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. So from a 5 to a 3, who's doing that? You are. You
I
are.
am.
Yeah, you are. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I'm going to ask you to be willing to change even more, to be willing to change even more. How long have you known your thoughts help create your life?
A short time. I don't know.
Okay. So if I told you that I always expect to get my feelings hurt, or I expect to fail, how's that going to go for me?
I'm going to keep getting my feelings hurt.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And you could go ahead and keep that expectation if you want. I mean, you're the power, or you could change it, which I strongly recommend doing. So I'm going to ask you to breathe and take in the feeling. You're changing. Very smart, very, 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 very smart. You're changing your expectation, changing. You expect things to get better. You expect things to get better. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. Bingo. And I want you to notice your level of pain, 0 to 10. What's your level?
Well, can I just interject and say, do I deserve
Okay, so wait a sec.
not having my feelings hurt?
But wait a sec. So I want you to notice your level of pain. What's your level?
I would say still a 3.
So what I would say is a few things. Bingo. Give me 1 second. Bingo. 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 Give me 1 second. Bingo. Bingo. So if I ask you how much, even though this does not make any logical sense, but if I ask you how much there's a part of you who feels inside not good enough, what would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a large part of that. Yeah.
Bingo. So I'm going to ask you just for a moment to breathe. And I want you to take in the awareness that everybody else is made from top grade people parts, and you're made from lesser people parts.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So we know that's not true. Like you can't be inferior. Like we're all made from the same things.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you to breathe and just take in the awareness. We're made from high class people parts. You're made from lesser people parts. Right. So that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to ask you to breathe and taking in the feeling that of course you're good enough. Of course you're great. Of course you're good. Of course you're great. And you love who you are. You love who you are. You feel good about you. You love who you are. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. And of course, you can create a loving relationships and in with all of your relationships. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. Bingo. And I want you to notice your level of pain, 0 to 10. What's your level?
2.
2, right? That's bingo.
Maybe a 1, actually.
Bingo. That's what if I check in, I would say I have about a 1.4. That's exactly right.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
Great job. So the thing of it is, we could, of course, keep pushing and we could get all the way down to a 0. And even in those studies that I showed in the very beginning, where there's, the images where we see the difference, exactly what I'm doing, where people had neck pain, upper back pain, and then just helping them identify what is the issue. And you can see on the scans that their pain is going away. And so what I would say is taking this to a deeper level and continuing to shift this all of the way genuinely. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I feel lighter.
I know, right? It's because you did great with your energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Fantastic job with your energy. Beautiful. Fantastic job.
Show up.
Now,
yeah.
By the way,
thank you.
You are so welcome. Now, kind of to give you a summary, what I would want you to do, even moving forward, is to to create the shift all of the way. So you really feel a new expectation, you really feel self-love, you really feel self-confidence, and then also there's some past wounding that you would want to ultimately delete and get it out of your subconscious mind also, so that it never comes back. So both are true. You want to create new neural pathways and then get rid of the old and negative. And so beautiful.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
beautiful.
All right.
Fantastic job.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandy.
You are so
Wow.
welcome.
Wow.
So, Brandy, I want to take everyone to the special offer. Y'all click on the special offer button underneath the video call. April's going to type in the chat box, the link for it as well, so you can click into it. As you're opening up, Brandy, I want to ask, and want to get to some more of y'all that are live right now, and some of y'all are going to raise your hands also. We'll pick on some more people to take through this fantastic experience. There's a part, Brandy, that says, but this is too easy. And what? And like, wait, I'm from a 7 to a 2. It's like, well, no, it's got to be a 2 and not a 1, because it can't be so easy. And it's like, how did you do it so fast? And let me find the blocks and let me find why it can happen, because it was too easy. It's like, how'd you do that so fast? And then, oh no, I can't hold on to it. Okay, I got down to a 1.4. Amazing. It was because Brandy was holding it for me. And after I hang up, there's no way it's going to be a 1.4, because it can't be that easy.
Absolutely. And that's why I say a few things. First and foremost, that's part of the reason that I started showing it under medical equipment, is that after I got better, thought people are never gonna even believe this is possible. And then I started taking people, I was asked to speak on stages. So here I was speaking, and I would take people from a live audience and say, and I would purposely take people who didn't believe it was possible. And I would work with them in the same way, and their pain would be gone. And I thought to myself, one time I was getting off stage, I thought, somebody's going to think this is a plant. This is a person, a fake. Oh, I had neck pain and now it's gone. And by the way, just so we're all clear, that would have been me before. I was world's biggest skeptic. I would have said, this is impossible. And so that's what drove me to start showing it under medical equipment. And further, that's also why I wanted to give her the others, the other steps, because yes, it's creating a real shift and a new way of feeling and getting it programmed in, and then noticing, are there any other patterns that can negatively impact? And what I love, divine universe unfoldment here, is that we can see how self-love and self-confidence and feeling good about self are all important. And, I was joking around about, made from second class people parts. I mean, obviously she's gorgeous inside and out, and has a great sense of humor. Thank you for letting me push a bit and be playful. And I mean, what a beautiful being. And so that's that. So I would say it does take real change. It absolutely does, to maintain the results. And I think another way to kind of put this in perspective is that if we imagine somebody who's walking around and they're having a panic attack, like a panic anxiety attack, and they have no idea that emotions are connected to it. And they're saying, oh my gosh, check my heart, it's racing. Check my lungs, I can't breathe. Check my heart, check my lungs, what's happening? And they have no idea that emotions are connected to it. That's our world. It's like, we know certain emotions affect the physical body. I mean, if we think about somebody who's embarrassed, we all know they can have a red face. Even emojis know that we can have a little red face. I mean, it's so well known. And then we think about panic attack. We know that. Sexual thought, we know that. And if we think about other serious illnesses, I mean, we can think about somebody who has a broken heart. Somebody can die from a broken heart, or even scared to death, where somebody's so scared their heart stops beating and they can die. So we can see that emotions affect the body. And even research from Harvard in the last few years suggests that autoimmune conditions are caused from stress. So we can see more and more of this. Or the Surgeon General last year released a statement about loneliness and its detrimental impact on health. And so we can see all of this. And basically it's just saying, okay, well, let's use this knowledge. And that's what I started doing, over 13 years, my accident was over 20 years ago. But that's what I started doing is understanding how we can use this at a deeper level. And so it does take real change. I mean, if we don't shift out of the emotions all of the way and the pattern comes back, it shows up. And that's one of the reasons that feeling self-confident and feeling self-love can be so pivotal, is because as we feel confidence, what do? We can help get out of fear. Our relationships can be better when we feel self-love. And so there's multiple ways that creating a real pivot or creating a real emotional shift can be pivotal. So
yeah, and sustainable. And again, the shifts are dramatic. So this is wonderful. And again, I love that you bring in the opportunity to go deeper with you and the self-practice. And so the special offer, again, every time Brandy comes on, it's truly a special offer. The discount that's available just from a financial price point is extremely generous. But even without the discount, the empowerment, the self-awareness, what you take with you from being in the field, and also by digesting this intelligence and the way Brandy brings it in, it's second to none. And I highly encourage you at least to follow along as Brandy explains what's on here. But even more than that, dive into it. It's a huge shift that becomes possible. And Brandy, take everybody through what they're going to receive by diving in with you on this course.
Absolutely. In this course, that's exactly what we're working on. Is we are working on self-love and also noticing and identifying the specific patterns, and then working on releasing them. Now, in this class, what I always like to do is, because I like to give each person information, and in a group setting similar to this, is I cap it off at 20 people. And so then what it allows me to do is check in and help, we'll do practices together where we're doing release techniques and reprogramming techniques. And then I'll also check into people's energy, and we'll get into a flow. And so that's what I love. I know that going through my own injury, the one thing that was the most valuable to me was getting real results. And of course, I can't make anybody change, but I can set the atmosphere for that. And so that is the goal. And so it's really about changing self-criticism, bringing in feelings of self-love, getting past the misconceptions, and creating that change. And so it's basically 3-week class. We have live meetings, similar setup on Zoom, and we work on exactly that, releasing and reprogramming the mind, and creating that deeper shift.
Yeah, and again, if you're on the sales page, read through it. I didn't even know this is on the sales page of everything we've been talking about. Is covered here again: cultivating self-love, eliminating self-criticism and judgment, feeling safe in self-love, acknowledging your deservedness, practicing self-kindness over self-sympathy, banishing negative self-perceptions, improving financial management, and cultivating stronger relationships, and so much more. Brandy's offering this at $197. It's valued at close to $600. It's powerful. I know so many people from the show and friends that have taken work with Brandy, and they just rave about the results. So again, I'm excited to be able to present this here to y'all and take advantage of it. And if you have any questions about the special offer, we're still going to be on as we're taking more callers. So type your questions into the chat box.
Beautiful. There's one thing I kind of forgot. So we'll have each week we meet like this, and then also there's just to keep the change and the transformation. There are also in between, there are also weekly group calls where we just get on there, and it's just a mind programming call where it's a half an hour, and that's exactly what we do, live group. But it's all about it's not a bunch of questions and thinking. It's just deep down mind programming, just to keep so technically we meet twice a week, once for an actual class session, and then once for also just live mind programming and energy shifting.
Well, and then we'd even talk about the bonuses also, because there's the uplift technique, there's the love activator that you're offering as well, and of course the mind programming calls.
Yeah.
What's the uplift release technique?
It is similar to, it's basically the more that we bring in positivity, the more that we can also use it to then release negative. So kind of like, in a way, I almost did it, with our beautiful volunteer, Wendy, in that it was like, okay, well, let's bring this up and then let go of the negative. And so it can help do both. And the reason it's important is that a lot of times people always want to address the negative. They go, oh, well, I have this problem. Let me look at this. Let me get rid of it. And that's part of the problem. Is in kind of a few simple ways to put it, is that number one, let's say somebody has a pattern of feeling unloved or hurt all through their lives, and they go to get rid of that pattern. If they're just facing the pattern itself, it's not going to get rid of it. It's kind of like if I said, I want to speak French, and the way I'm going to speak French is if I get rid of all of the English I've ever spoken. Well, that's not going to work. But if I learn to then speak French, then I'm reprogramming my mind. So somebody would need to learn to really reprogram new neural pathways in the mind to create that shift and then let go of the negative. And so uplift release technique is about doing the combination, is about creating the positive, letting go of the negative, and having that dance, if you will. So it's a fun release technique.
Beautiful dance. Beautiful dance.
Beautiful
All right,
dance.
I'll take advantage of it. The link is in the chat box if you can't find the special offer button underneath the video. And it's there. I think there's a 2 payment option as well. So you all take advantage of that. And Brandy, can we continue with some more callers?
We can, absolutely. I love this.
Yeah, I love this. Yeah, me too. Rebecca, let's go to you. Welcome to the call.
Hi, Brandy.
Hi,
Thank
Rebecca.
you so much. What the things you say make a lot of sense. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I like to keep logic. So beautiful. So are you currently experiencing pain, beautiful?
So not pain so much, although I do in my feet, a joint in my feet have sort of stuck energy and niggles and a bit of pain sometimes. But more, I'm sort of focused at the moment in my life on being stuck in Korea and selling a house, neither of which are happening.
Okay.
I don't know if it's me or out there or some combination, but yeah, I do have the feeling certainly of being unappreciated or unseen or unloved. And, you know, I have been doing quite a lot of work on that myself in terms of self-love. And yeah, but just anything you can offer there would be appreciated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, so give me just 1 second. Give me 1 second. Bingo. Bingo. So if there was that out of the way, give me 1 second. So on top of it all, for a moment, there's a feeling of feeling like nobody understands me. Are you familiar with that feeling?
Yes.
Okay. So part of what's happening is that as you're telling yourself nobody understands you, you feel like you're experiencing that very thing. So that is one thing. And what's happening is that a few things. So have you ever seen that where a plant will grow towards the sun? Like a plant or a tree, it grows towards the sun, right? So we as human beings at a subconscious level, we will grow towards love. So whether we want to or not. So if somebody feels like love and sympathy are linked up, and if they even want to succeed, they may sabotage it because sympathy and love or whatnot. So we'll grow towards that. And so the first thing I see in your energy is this feeling that feels very strong. Nobody understands me. And so it's almost like your energy is looking at where is that love and connection? Where is that understanding? And so it's feeling very stuck in not having a direction to clearly grow. Does that make sense to you?
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay, so give me 1 second. So that's one piece, and bingo, there is another piece. Give me 1 second. Bingo. So the feeling is a feeling of left out from age 6. Are you familiar with that?
that would seem correct.
Okay. So, bingo. So if I ask you, now this is kind of the other piece to it, is there's this feeling of feeling left out. And if I ask you, do you want to be included in? What would you say?
Ah, interesting. Well, I think the answer would be sometimes yes and sometimes no.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, I would also say there's a part of you who feels a bit special from also not being part of the group as well. Are you familiar with that?
Right. Okay.
Okay. So it feels like if you were more part of it, you would almost feel like you would lose your specialness, if you
Oh,
will. And
interesting.
yeah, bingo. And can you see that?
Yeah, cool. Yep.
Can I tell you, I'm so impressed with your self-awareness. Because the subconscious mind, you never know. Can you see this? Can you not? And so I just so much respect and just very impressive. So what I would say is the unstuck piece. It needs to know, it's like if I looked around and said, there's no direction for love. So I'd want you to get clear on creating a direction for love, because there's a part of your being that's really wanting love and feeling that way forward. And so that's where I would go. And I feel like that's the key, a big key to getting unstuck. I would say one other thing. I would say that there's a bit of connection where you are with your house right now. Like there's a feeling of connection with it that almost gives you a sense of bonding. And I would say that without that, you kind of lose more bonding. So it's like you're a tree that's trying to grow away from the sun instead of towards the sun. So I would say that if you could say, it's going to be more love when I sell my house, and it's going to be amazing, and this is why it's going to be so much more love, then you'll give your mind and body and soul a direction to grow towards. Does that make sense?
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
You're
Yes,
so welcome.
I am a bit wary, I think, of when you say finding direction for love. I'm a bit wary of putting that outside of myself, rather than it being here, me.
Okay, so I have a question. If you knew that love was safe and beautiful and fun and harmonious and playful, how weary would you be?
Yeah, not.
Okay, so if I said, there's a dog over there and I'm super weary about it, or if I said there's a dog over there and oh my gosh, I want to go pet it, it's so cute, it's so sweet, you can see there's different ways of feeling about, and so I would say, like, creating that change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Thank
Ah,
you.
I love your self-awareness. I just so much respect. Beautiful. Just awesome.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Awesome.
too.
Respect back. Thanks, John.
Brandy, how do you address it's again, someone like Rebecca's like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong because my house isn't changing. There's a lot of self-flatulation sometimes that's happening because things aren't moving in the ways that we think that they should, and feeling like we're the culprits, and maybe we are, but it's so punishing in the way that it's sought after.
Punishing or empowering. So when you know something is off and you feel like, because I remember what it felt in my own life to feel like I couldn't heal. My entire life was falling apart. There was nothing I can do and I have no future. And I had nothing I could do about it. That was hard.
Yeah.
And when I started feeling like, okay, there's something I can do about it, I have to change, I would say, there's an empowerment in it. And sometimes we want to soften things, and we need to be careful about doing that, because sometimes if we continue to say, oh, I don't have to change, I don't have to change, I don't have to change, we end up in negative situations where we're just sitting there. And so, of course, beating ourselves up is not going to help it. And
Right.
so it's really about, I call it a feeling of blissful empowerment. where we take in the feeling and the strength. We say, okay, I'm blissfully empowered. And then it's not attacking the self, but it's taking in the feeling of lifting and shifting. And so I would say that there's that we need to also be careful, because sometimes as human beings, we'd rather have victim mode than empowerment mode. And that's a dangerous place to be. Been in a place where I was, the victim of a car accident and a fall and blah, blah, blah. And my doctors couldn't help me. And I think if done the right way, it's life-changing.
Right. It definitely brings up, and again, it's a shift in perspective.
Bingo.
It's the shift in perspective.
Exactly. The right perspective is everything. Self-attacking is not, but when we can take it in and we say, look, I'm the power, I can create this change. And then it makes you want to change even faster. And I think part of the reason it's good to own that is because, let's be honest, most people don't want to change. Like we don't want to change unless we're incentivized. I mean, we've all heard before, most people don't change till they hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
So if we're not clear on telling ourselves, if we change, here's the reward. If we change, here's the reward, then we're not going to get ourselves to change. I mean, we have changed to, step outside of our comfort zone. Even if you think about it, and you had mentioned earlier that sometimes loving ourselves or receiving can feel awkward. Exactly. So then what do we want to do? Get away from change. But we tell ourselves, wait a second, I can change. I'm the change. I got to change. I got to change. I got to change. So taken in the right way, it is powerful to take it in. And even if we notice with Wendy, I said, you could keep that if you want, but I'd recommend changing it, And so when we really get it linked up, that we're empowered, I think that's it is pivotal.
It really is. Rebecca, again, thank you for coming on. All right, let's continue. Let's go to user 270. Welcome. Can you find your unmute button? There you go. I need my glasses all the time too.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you're still muted, love. I'll tell you what, why don't you find your
or we can do this. Let's see. I just hit ask to unmute. Do you see the button that says unmute now?
There you go.
Oh, no, and we still can't hear you. Uh-oh.
So give us a couple of minutes. I'll come back to you. See if you can work your microphone and the Zoom and turn it on, and we'll come back. So no worries. So let's go now to user 1788.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. What is your name?
Kelly.
Kelly.
It's wonderful to connect with you, Kelly. What is your question today?
Well, it sounds kind of funny, but I'm having pain near my tailbone area.
Okay.
And it's an intense pain, and I'm not sure. I haven't had any injuries. It's just kind of showing up.
I gotta admit, I've been in pain for years before, and that didn't sound funny at all. Like, I have so much compassion. I get it. Pain to me, it's just, yeah. So what's your level right now? Beautiful. What's your level?
About a 7.
And that's what I would have said, probably 7, 8. I feel you. All right. So give me 1 second. Bingo. Okay. So there is a feeling like you can't count on somebody. Do you know what that's from?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you just for a moment to breathe. Bingo. And can you also give me your mom's initial?
J.
And can you give me your father's initial?
D.
Bingo. And if I ask you, can you see some patterns even with your father where you felt like you couldn't count on him growing up? Can you see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you just for a moment to breathe. And I'm going to ask you to think about just for a moment. You heard me when I was saying, a woman with an abusive father could leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, etc. Like our patterns can continue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I'm going to ask you to first take in the feeling that you, my dear, are freaking amazing. that we are all amazing beings. Our thoughts help create our lives. You know that, you feel it. And that, like all of us, we've had our stuff, but you're willing to change. You're willing to change. And not only that, but you feel strong inside yourself. So you feel an empowerment in yourself. You feel supported by universe, and you see yourself even walking around. You see yourself walking around feeling supported by life, like you can count on life, like you can count on this world, like things are getting better and better. You see it. You see yourself smiling, but you see yourself. You can count on life. You can count on yourself. You feel like things are getting better and better and better because you are changing. You're creating a real change. Are you willing to change?
Yes.
I mean, like really willing to change.
Mm-hmm.
100%?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Great. So I'm going to ask you to take that feeling in. Like 100% willing to change, or like a little bit, or like
No,
real.
definitely.
So I'm going to ask you to breathe.
100%.
What's that?
100%.
What's that?
100%.
Great. Own it, own it, own it. You're changing. You're the power and you're changing. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. You're the power and you're changing. And you've got this, and you see yourself feeling stronger, more empowered, more confident, more safe in life, more stronger, empowered, confident. It's just who you are. You feel it in your body. You feel it in your core. It's just who you are, right? You're changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I'm going to ask you to breathe, and you're letting go of blah, 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 upset and yada, yada. You're creating real change, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Great, great, great. So I'm going to ask you to breathe. I'm going to ask you to breathe, and I want you to notice your current level of pain, 0 to 10. What's your level?
A 3.
3. Great. So I'm going to ask you just for a moment to breathe, and I'm going to push one more time, okay? So I'm going to
Mhm.
push. Come with me, okay? And beautiful job. Who's doing that, by the way?
I am.
You are, because you're freaking amazing. So I'm going to ask you to breathe, and I'm going to ask you to take in the feeling. So I'm going to push a bit more. So here we go. So of course you're changing. Of course you're changing. And I'm going to ask you to breathe, and you feel your strength. You feel the change. You feel the determination. Yes, you feel strong in your body. Yes, you feel strong in life and more empowered, because we're all empowered. Even us women, we are empowered. We can make changes in our life. We can do things. And I'm going to ask you to breathe and taking in the feeling that you're just connecting more and more with your strength, your confidence. You feel good, and you're also attracting more and more situations where you feel supported. You feel solid. It feels really, really good. It's just more and more change, and it's good. It's so good. And you're changing, and life is getting better, and you can count on people. It's happening. It's changing. And you feel that, and you feel like you can count on yourself and the universe and more people, great people around you. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. Good. And I want you to notice the level of pain, 0 to 10. What's your level?
Maybe 2.
Maybe 2. Great, great, great job. And bingo, that's about exactly what I have. And so, of course, to get this in, I want you to embody this change all of the way. And then there's also, I talked about your dad a bit, and deleting this pattern. So you'd want to really create this change all of the way. And fantastic job. Who did that?
Thank you.
Who did that?
Well, I did with your help.
You did, because you're kind of really amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you so much.
Job. Absolutely.
Is there going to be this type of work on your live calls also? Where you going, or are you going to show people how to find that and work through it on their own?
Absolutely. So part of what we do is I'll take people like this, and in this type of setting, we'll create a shift, then we'll all do it. And so it's about integrating, taking a person, doing that, integrating into the group. And that is why it's limited to 20 people yes. So that's what we do. And we look at what are the patterns. So a lot of times we'll do something like this. Then I'll say, all right, let's identify who else has a hidden pattern. And we'll put it in the chat, and I'll say, okay, with yours, can you see it? Can you see it? What's your level? Let's release it. Let's create a shift. Where did it start? What do we need to do to move it forward? And so it's the process. Yes.
Awesome. So cool, y'all. Take the links in the chat box. The link is the special offer buttons underneath the video also. So you can easily find it, take advantage of it. Let's keep playing, Brandy. This is awesome. Let's go to user 270. Welcome to the call. Did you find your mute button? You're still muted, love. Still can't hear you.
I think she's unmuted, but I think her audio is not connected. I don't see a little mic. Yeah, it looks like the audio is just not connected.
So if you want to find your microphone on the Zoom call, click helps you. Or you can go to the top and try to find the settings for it. But let's go now to user 882. Welcome to the call.
Hi, Brandy. Hi, John.
Hello.
Hi, it's wonderful to connect with you. 882.
Seraphina is my name.
Hi,
Hi,
Seraphina.
Seraphina. It's
Beautiful
wonderful
name.
to connect with you, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful name. Hi, what can I help
Hi.
you with?
So, the pain I was experiencing is like coming and going. So I didn't know whether to come on, but I will go ahead and, so just some dental pain and my Achilles tendon on my left foot. And, then pain under my left rib cage. So like it was worse before and now it's just coming on and going.
Okay, okay. And if I ask you where you're feeling the most pain right now, what would you say? Where would you say that is?
Right now, probably under my rib cage.
Okay. And about a level 4?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just so you know, when I first got this gift, I started feeling people's pain automatically. Like somebody would walk in and they have kidney issues and I'd be, oh, or somebody would have me, and I would be like, so now I always ask first, okay, where is the pain? And then I check into that specific area instead of so so give me 1 second.
Okay.
That okay, so bingo. All right. So you may or may not see this one. We'll see. So some things are sometimes harder to see than others, and I would say this might be one of those. Okay.
Okay.
So so I'll put it in. If not, I'll just put it in different words. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So bingo. 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 By the way, I just have to say, you know, I love this. Somebody left it a comment right here, and I just have to read it. It caught my attention. It just says, I don't have constant pain, but like others, certainly have a past. As Brandy helps others with self-love and empowerment issues, I feel like I'm also benefiting somewhat from her words. Does that make sense? And it's what I love about classes, because all of the time when I work with people in classes, everybody goes, oh my God, that, yeah. So I just, that popped up and it was like, it caught my attention. So I just had to say that, but absolutely, that is always the goal. Bingo. All right. So, and I love your self-awareness. That was just beautiful. All right. So give me 1 second. There is a feeling. Okay. So again, I mentioned you may or may not see this, and if not, I'll put it in another way. Bingo. So there's a feeling of feeling frustrated with the universe. Are you familiar with that feeling?
Yes.
Okay. I love your awareness. I love it. I love it. So I'm going to ask you just for a moment to breathe. And I want you to notice that feeling. Again, I just love your awareness. Now, I have to say, I felt the same thing going through my injury. I was like, just give me an E for effort, will you? I'm doing everything. And I learned it didn't work that way. I was like, and so I'm going to ask you just for a moment to breathe. And instead of getting frustrated, just saying, okay, I'm willing to change, and no frustration. And just saying, okay, look, I am willing to change, because I think for me personally, I was waiting and waiting for the universe to heal me. I was waiting for universe, God, divine energy, whatnot. I was like, okay, well, I'm visualizing this. When is this going to happen? I'm waiting for this healing. When is it going to happen? And when I finally really got that I had to change, and I got at the level that I needed to change, things started happening very nicely. And so I'm going to ask you, just for a moment to breathe. And like you said, yeah, you've got it. Yep, you've got it. So I'm going to ask you to breathe and just taking in that awareness. Like, of course, you've got it. Like, okay, you're willing to change and even letting go of the frustration. You don't need it anymore. You don't want it. It's not serving you. You're willing to let it go. It's not needed. You can let it go. It's not serving you. And I'm going to ask you to breathe and even just taking that in. Of course, you're letting it go. And you know, you've got this. You're willing to change. You're a beautiful being. You're creating change. You're embodying real change. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. Bingo. And loving the universe, loving the support from the universe that it can feel hard to make a change. But if we just embrace the next level of real change, that of course it can change, right? Great. So I'm going to ask you to breathe and notice your level of pain, 0 to 10. What's your level?
Probably a 2.
2. Great. And so I'm going to ask you to breathe.
Excuse me.
That. Bingo. And if I ask you also, by the way, lovely, if I ask you 0 to 10, how much you can find a feeling of feeling inferior? How much can you find that feeling? So I'm going to ask you just for a moment to breathe. And I want you to notice again that the rest of us were made from really premium people parts, you secondary people parts. So I'm going to ask you to breathe, and I love your laugh and your sense of humor and the awareness that obviously we know that's not true. And so you can't be inferior. You cannot be in, we're all made from the same thing. You're not actually inferior. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. And then, of course, creating real change. You've got this, creating real change, and you're letting go of frustration. You're letting it go. You don't need it anymore. It's not serving you. It's so boring and blah, blah. It's so boring. And because what's really, really fun and exciting is your empowerment, loving you, feeling good, creating a real shift. Good. And I'm going to ask you to breathe. And I want you to notice your level of pain, 0 to 10. What's your level?
1.
That's what I would have said, even like a point. That's what I was about, a 0.7, right under a 1. So fantastic job.
Yeah.
And who's doing that? Beautiful.
Yeah, it's almost, I mean, I'm also aware of a fear of this change, because if it doesn't look like what I want, then I'm going to be more frustrated. So I have this push pull going on. So it's almost like I'm afraid to have it go is what's feeling like. Yeah.
Bingo. I would agree. And I would also say there's a feeling of undeserving. That's also creating that. There's past guilt that's very high. Are you familiar with that?
Not really.
Let me put a different word on it. Give me 1 second. Bingo. Self-punishment from bingo. Around 2020. Bingo. Around there's a feeling around February 2020 of being hard on yourself, like punishing yourself. Are you familiar with that? That's the other piece. So letting that go. Bingo. That. You see what I'm talking about? I love your awareness.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So changing that, letting that go is super important. Okay. We hit a sensitive spot there, huh?
Yeah. That's good to know, though. Thank you.
Yeah. And I want you to notice how much emotion came up with that.
Yeah.
I feel you. I feel you. So, that's where it's at. And that's why it brought so much emotion up. So, beautiful.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. And I love your self-awareness, especially because I said, oh gosh, you might not see this. And you were like, yeah, I see it. I got it. So just so much respect. Fantastic job. Fantastic. Just a beautiful self-aware group.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, let's continue. User 270, did you find your microphone? Did we fix it?
I think we did.
We did, yes. So happy.
Oh, God. I had to go into something called participants. And
Well, here you are. We got you. Yeah.
We've got you.
Oh, my.
What is your name and what's your question for Brandy?
My name is Jody Anderson. And my question is, and I don't want to get into the story, but I had a fall about 7 years ago and fractured a rib, and it didn't heal very well. And now over the years, whenever I go to engage in using my arms, I've gone into PT. I've done so many healings and therapies about it. At any rate, now I'm going into self-love and wondering if, okay, that must be the bottom line of what this is all about. And I'm learning that self-love is not self-care. There's a missing piece here that I'm not aware of. And if I need to thinking the brain patterns need to be changed, and I need help.
All right, so give me 1 second. So if you raise your arms now, what is your level of discomfort or pain?
Well, I don't have any right now because I'm sitting supported, but if I were to be standing, it would be about a 3.
Okay.
And it's a constant pain that goes through my body and just takes over my body.
Right,
And
great,
makes
great.
me
So I'm going to ask you to
feel-
breathe. And I'm gonna not reinforce it real quick. So hold on 1 second. I hear you, I feel you, and I got you. Give me 1 second. Bingo. Give me 1 second. Second. So basically when it's intermittent and I need to fall into those moments where it is to actually see what's triggering it. So it can take just a second. By the way, I think you have a little bit of background noise going on a little bit in your, but give me 1 second. Hold on 1 sec. Give me 1 second. All right. Again, so if it's intermittent, I got to check into it. Give me 1 second. That. Bingo. There's a feeling of feeling like, bingo. And again, this is another one that's not always easy to see. So you may or may not see this, but there's a feeling of feeling like if you succeed, that people don't like it. Like people are jealous of your success or doing better. Are you familiar with that pattern?
I am familiar with that pattern. I so want to get better though.
Okay.
But I also, yeah.
You're familiar with that pattern. I love your awareness.
I'm familiar with the pattern and I know, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what I know.
Go ahead. And you know what? Go ahead.
Well, I'm really upset at my body, my mind and body that I know you can heal yourself. And I've been studying this transformation for 40 years now. And I feel like I'm pretty intuitive, but why hasn't it gone away? So
Okay.
I'm really.
I hear you. I get it. And by the way, I work with people who've been on this healing journey 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. I get it. I see it all of the time.
Yeah.
Right. So bingo. There's this feeling, and I would say it's a pattern that started at age 7 of feeling like kind of like this. Are you familiar with like the tall poppy?
The what? Tall poppy?
Yeah. It's kind of like so if I told you that if I succeed, I'll lose love and people will be jealous of my success, type of feeling.
I got that.
Yes. So the thing of it is this is the pattern. So it's kind of like if you think about one of our people, we talked about how do we move towards love, right? And we talked about the tree, and we say a tree will want to grow towards the sun. But if I say, oh, well, if I grow and grow, then I'm going to lose the sun. I'm going to lose love. I'm going to lose connection. Then what happens is we feel stuck and like we can't grow the way that we want to. And so we'll kind of grow, but then also hold ourselves back simultaneously. And so I would say, first and foremost, I love your awareness that you can see that pattern. And that's the thing that is holding you back and also distracting you, is because you have this healing that you have to do, and it's keeping you from so many more things that you feel like you could do if you just didn't have this healing thing.
That's right. That's so right. I say, oh my God, I could be doing this and that and that and this, but I'm right now paralyzed in pain.
Bingo. Exactly. Now, by the way, so paralyzed in pain, I'm frozen, I'm in pain, I can't move. Why? Because love is the other way, so to speak. So it's changing this to really repattern this, so you're feeling like it is safe to succeed. And as you're succeeding, there's more love, there's more joy, there's more happiness, there's love. You succeed and flourish, and there is more of that. So creating that real change is key. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
I love your self-awareness. I love it. So repatterning and reprogram that, it's key. So
The other part of it is how long and do relationships. I've been married 50 years and I feel as if the relationship keeps me in that stuck place.
I would say if you change this pattern, you'll see in a different way. Your relationship will flourish in a different way. And a simple way to put it is like this, is I'm going to give you an example that's completely off topic. And let's say that somebody has had rejection, and they've had rejection in life. So then in another relationship, they show up super needy. Now what happens? Then people push them away because then they feel like, so it repeats the pattern of rejection. Or if somebody's been rejected, another thing they might do is stay distant, in which case they attract more rejection, because then what happens is they never created the bond. And so rejection becomes an easy thing to do. And so what I'm saying is that when we have these patterns of feeling stuck, of feeling like we can't move forward, of feeling like love isn't moving forward, then our relationships can reflect that. And when we change these patterns, like the person in that example who feels rejected, if they change that and they let it go, they can start showing up a different way in their relationships that then helps them flourish. And so what I would say is change self and change this pattern and see what happens with your relationship. Because I see so often when people say, oh, but my relationship is like this and this. And I say, that started with your husband, right? Because you married him when you were 4. And of course, people laugh and say, okay, because you see these patterns change, start when we're 4 or 6 years old. And it's like, oh, well, I didn't actually marry him when I was 4 or whatnot. And so when we change our patterns, our dynamics change in our relationships. And I've seen people who have been in relationships 40, 50 years who change a pattern. They go, oh my gosh, like the effect it has on their relationship is just beautiful. So I would say that that's where I'd start.
Beautiful,
Thank
Brandy.
you very
Thank you so
much, Mandy.
You may
Thank
want to
you, John.
consider diving into Brandy's course. And again, the link is underneath the video
Yes,
there.
sounds great.
Chat box as
Thank you.
well. Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
for your questions and again, your awareness. So beautiful. Brandy, we can continue going on, and I want to invite all of y'all to go deeper with Brandy, and again, in the special offer, we're glimpsing what's possible here, but that to sustain the shift and to see how that blossoms, not only in what you believe your predicament may be now, but in the possibilities that want to expand in your life. From watering that seed that's ready to grow in ways that perhaps you weren't seeing. What's possible is amazing. So dive in. Brandy, thank you so much for what you do and how you do. And again, always showing up so generously.
Absolutely. And I just have to say, we just get the best volunteers. And you guys, every single one just did amazing and great self-awareness and great job shifting their energy. And I guess the moral of the story is we are not made from secondary people parts. And John, the way that you show up and hold space in your heart and your awareness is just beautiful. So thank you always. I love to come play in this space with you. You're just beautiful. You're just beautiful.
Right back at you, love.
Thank you.
And y'all, all of y'all are so beautiful. All of y'all live, feeling y'all here. Feeling y'all on the replay, this community. Y'all are just absolutely amazing. Thank you for just being just who you are in perfection. Love you all. I look forward to seeing you on the next call. Brandy, I love you. I look forward to talking to you soon.